Hi friends, what's the plan? Well, it's a lovely spring morning and Easter is a big day. The centre of the church year, many would say. So I have to put on something grand for my Easter video. And I've found a church which is absolutely spectacular in the centre of Dorset. Amazing looking church, amazing weather, fantastic Dorset Tower. And I know there's a 2-manual pipe organ there, so it should do a good job of Easter music. The only problem is, the email I received from the vicar when I booked this church says, "Dear Ben, yes, that's fine. The organ is extremely difficult to play, but see what you can make of it." And now I'm wondering, is this going to be worth it? No adventure is complete without its challenges. But you know how much I like to try to be positive on this channel, so I'm keeping an open mind and I'll try my best for you. Maybe we might even be surprised. Today I'm driving 50 miles into Dorset, which takes me about an hour and a half. First I drive through Blandford, and then I skirt Hardy's hometown of Dorchester, on my way to a cluster of pretty villages. My destination is Sidling St Nicholas, a village I've never seen before. But as fast roads dissolve into quiet country lanes, I can already tell that we're in for a treat. Here we are, friends, the distant sound of machinery and a faint smell of bonfires. This is a village which is new to me and it's new to you. It's called Sidling St Nicholas, and I think I'm onto a winner already here because it's very, very pretty. They say it's one of the prettiest in Dorset, but I'm sure every Dorset village says that. Let's go and take a look at the church. The crows are absolutely up in arms today. I wonder what that's all about. I'm heading to the top of this village, the highest point I believe, which is where the church is located. Apparently this place has quite a reputation for flooding. I think it flooded last year at Easter, and I can see the tower rising up before me. So here we are, Sidling St Nicholas Church, an ancient Dorset church with a big country house to the right. The two will be forever linked, I think, especially when you see the inside. I will show you the inside of this church, but because it's Easter, I want to show you something else as well. I took a look at the footpaths before I came, and you know there's one great gift for the Salisbury organist when he's out and about in the Diocese of Salisbury. And that is a really good, long, expansive footpath, which shows you how our ancestors would have approached this church. And what a fantastic church it is. Very distinctly Dorset. Interesting actually, that south aisle, you can already see it's slightly sloping. I think the ground actually sank when they added it around 1500. Hence the massive buttresses by the south door. I'll show you more of that in a minute. They actually filmed part of the older Far From the Madding Crowd film here, I believe. There's one part, if I remember correctly, where Sergeant Troy goes to see Fanny Robin's grave. And there was a gargoyle on the side of the church. And after a rainstorm, its spout was pouring rainwater down onto that sorry grave, and that was filmed on location here at Sidling St Nicholas. I'm multitasking here. I'm holding a cap in one hand, a camera in the other, and I'm trying to talk about Thomas Hardy. And I'm also trying to show you this footpath. Yes, perfect. Because it's Easter, I want to show you this first. I'm not too bothered about the length of this video. I promise to show you the church. This place is spectacular. So I've now put on the cap and I'm holding the camera so that I can show you what I can see. And you can see my face whether you like it or not. To me, a footpath is one of the freest and most heavenly gifts that we can ever enjoy here in English villages. I have not seen a single person. I'm not sure if I will see a single person, but not that there's anything wrong with that, but you get complete solitude here, which is just complete bliss. You can listen to the sound of nature and you can exercise at the same time and get plenty of vitamin D, as my dad would say. Hearing the sound of the crows is actually quite meaningful because I'm here to play an organ which I've been told is very difficult to play. What makes an organ difficult to play? The mechanics, they can be quite heavy, but then I'm used to that. The tuning, really, is the problem, to be honest. Usually if an organ is hard to play, it's because it's not in tune. And what makes it difficult is avoiding all of the notes that are out of tune. That really limits what you can do with the organ. So that could be a problem today, we'll find out. But for now, I need to go back to my crow metaphor. The sound of the crows is quite ugly in some ways, isn't it? It's an abrasive sound compared to the sound of a blackbird, for example. But it's all part of the world that we live in, isn't it? And it's what makes the landscape what it is. And we wouldn't change it, would we? So maybe an imperfect and challenging pipe organ is not such a bad thing after all. He says, before seeing it. All I'm doing is taking you to this bend in the footpath, because what we see here is a complete masterpiece. So there we are, to the right, lands unvisited, but up ahead, this amazing view of the rolling countryside and the join between the sky and the land. It's made especially three-dimensional, I think, with the clouds, isn't it? If it was pure blue sky, it would almost look flat. Perhaps more poetic, with some cloud cover. And looking back down into the village where we've come from. It's quite an extraordinary view, and one which I've never actually seen before, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Let's make our way down, back to the church, to take a look at this old organ. It's very difficult to stop pulling the other camera out of my bag and taking more footage. Now I mention it. Come on, Ben, let's go. So here we are, friends, in the porch of St. Nicholas's Church, and let me show you some of the most extraordinary features. The moment I enter, I can hear the ticking of the clock, which dates to 1593, the second oldest faceless clock of its kind in England. And it will strike on 12, which is in about 10 minutes, so we can see how accurate their handiwork was. This is quite an extraordinary church. It's funny giving a tour of a church on these videos because I've only actually seen this one in a black and white picture book. That's how I get inspiration, but I'm really glad I came. There's no stained glass. Presumably during Cromwell's time that was all smashed and replaced with clear glass, which does give the bonus of the amazing scenery outside. There are still some box pews. But I find the chancel most interesting. That's because it rises up as we move towards the altar. But directly underneath here is a crypt for the Smith family who lived next door. I told you about the big house. And so the big house is intimately connected with the church. In fact, there are rumours that there is a tunnel from that crypt to the house. And there is a picture of the crypt at the back of the church with the metal coffins. Quite haunting, isn't it? Here on the right-hand side, sacred to the memory of Elizabeth Lady Smith. And she had 12 children, of which 9 died in infancy. And just look at the carving of her at the very top. It's incredibly emotional, isn't it? She couldn't look much more forlorn, actually. And her husband at the bottom, pointing up from his tomb. I made a video recently all about how churches are forever intimately connected with the dead. And it's true. But what I'm here to see is this pipe organ, which is perhaps the most colourful item in the entire church. I've seen photos of organs by Albert Peace, who built it. And they all kind of look the same. They have very similarly beautiful pipe work. This particular colour scheme works really well, I think. It makes the organ stand out and look very grand. But from what I've been told, it looks better than it sounds. Before I actually play it, I'm going to read you part of a poem. And there's a very specific reason why I'm reading this to you, and I'm sure you'll understand. 'Twas battered and scarred, and the auctioneer thought it scarcely worth his while to waste much time on the old violin, but held it up with a smile. "What am I bidden, good folks?" he cried. "Who'll start the bidding for me? $1, then two, then two. $2, and who'll make it 3? $3 once, $3 twice, going for 3, but no." From the room, far back, a grey-haired man came forward and picked up the bow, then wiping the dust from the old violin and tightening the loosened strings, he played a melody pure and sweet as a caroling angel sings. So I'm not reading you that because I'm a big head. I'm simply asking the question, can a competent musician make an organ which is in a very bad state of repair sound good? Let's find out. Hi again everybody. Brief intermission. I had to go back down into the village to get some more equipment. A big rucksack full of extra gizmos and a tripod, which is quite crucial. I also had my lunch, which was a chicken and bacon sandwich. And I have a new penchant for cucumber. Seemed to work pretty well in the sandwich. And it's amazing how a lunch really revitalizes a man. So that we can investigate this organ by Albert Pease. It was built sometime between perhaps 1890 and 1909, which is around when he worked. Would he ever have imagined it to have lasted this long? Who knows? It's a miracle, isn't it? Instantly I can see that many of the pipes are bent or leaning back against the swell box. That's not good, is it? If Thomas Hardy were here, and he did come to this church, he would probably write a poem personifying those pipes, and the way that their lean mimics that of these pillars in the south aisle. There's nothing comical about it, but I'm sure he would come up with something. But that's a problem. It will affect the tuning of the organ, and I wonder if those pipes even work at all. Wooden pipes go out of tune because they expand and contract with changing humidity. Metal pipes also go out of tune. You tune an organ by adjusting those collars at the top, up or down, and that brings the pitch back to where it should be. So you need some kind of reference point, and you usually tune the whole organ against the principal. These pipes at the front are called open diapasons. They're made of metal, and they're actually the best ones. They don't really go out of tune. It must be something about how the pipes are made. They maintain their tuning, and if you've been with me for a long time, I often talk about how good the open diapason is. I'll show you that in a minute. Around the back of the organ, we have more woodwork. You can see the entirety of the swell box, which the organ builder would need to get into to tune the organ. And then down below you can see the mechanism for the bellows, or wind chest. Looks like it's been patched up in places, as you'd expect, like an accordion. And then further still we find the blower, which provides wind and life for the organ. An old switch for the blower, which has been replaced, the old pumping handle, and more board-on pipes. Board-on means buzz. It's the lowest bass sound. Those don't tend to suffer from tuning, in my experience, because they're so low you almost can't hear the pitch anyway. It's more of an effect. You can feel it. Fantastic. And those are played with the feet. We have a straight pedal board. Nothing unusual about that. And we clearly have two keyboards, because there are lots of stops. Some on the right and some on the left. Now let's get to work. So, right, this is going to be complicated because I've had to rig up one camera over there, which is gazing at me. And then I've kind of put my phone there so you can see my hands. But it's just going to be a bit tricky. That is the joy of self-filming. Organs are characterized by principals, flutes, and strings and reeds. The only sound which doesn't mimic another instrument is the principal sound. That would be the open diapason and the principal. I don't hear anything wrong with that sound. And then the flutes, of course, mimic flute sounds. My usual example. Anyone know the tune? There's also a stop diapason bass. Again, it all sounds fine. The 15th was added last, I believe, in about 2000 to make the organ brighter. And you can tell it was added last because it's not faded. It's a bit like birdsong. I'm going to show you more of that in a minute. On the swell side, we have a kind of echo of those sounds, so slightly quieter versions. And all of these pipes are inside the swell box. I do notice actually from here that the swell box looks like it's jammed shut almost. It doesn't open much. that'll affect the volume of the organ. Normally those shutters open right up, whereas on this one they only open a fraction. That's potentially an issue. Flute sounds on the swell. That's a lovely sound, and then its counterpart an octave higher. Now here's the interesting part. We have strings, those are great for voluntaries at the start of services. They do try to mimic stringy sounds. A violin diapason, which is a principal sound again. And finally, the oboe. I would steer clear of the oboe when an organ is out of tune. And yes, I know, as soon as I started playing that, loads of you from your homes went, that was quite nice. Trust me, it's not that easy to work with if you play up high. If you use your imagination, if you layered that, which is a very rough sound, with lots of the other organ pipes, you're going to get more and more tuning problems all layered up together. And that's probably why this organ is so hard to play. I must admit though, it's not that hard to play. That piece demonstrates that there's absolutely nothing wrong with this organ that anybody would care about. However, I'm only using about half of its capabilities. I checked out the tuning book and it was last tuned back in September. So it's endured a cold winter since then, and it's probably endured at least 120 of those already. Freshly tuned and renovated, it could sound completely different, much louder for a start, because I'd couple all the keyboards together, draw a cluster of stops and blast out full organ with no trouble. But it's just not like that, I'm afraid. Instead, I'm being very picky about which stops I use, trying not to layer the most unpleasant ones. And I'm playing delicately to avoid damaging the action. Let's take a look in more detail. So I've put you down on the bench so that the other camera, which is also you, can't see you. But that means I can show you these individual stops and also talk to you at the same time, hopefully. So nothing whatsoever wrong with the open diapason. And if you layer it with the principal, it probably sounds fine as well, to be honest. Add the board on for some bass. And there goes the church clock, about to chime 2 p.m. Wow, how time flies. So those stops are okay, but the problem is, imagine if we layer everything together like you will on an organ normally and play a proper organ piece. How's this going to sound? It's hard to play anyway, I'm afraid, and I've never played this organ. But you can hear there are tuning problems as soon as you layer all the different sounds, and as soon as you go really high up in the registers. The smaller the pipes are, the more shrill they become, and if they're out of tune, it just begins to sound like shrieking. So my first piece of advice, if you are playing for a service, don't go too high and don't layer all the stops. In fact, that was 2 pieces of advice. 2 for the price of 1, friends. But those are really crucial. I will generally stay quite low if I'm playing an organ which is completely out of tune. Much better than complaining about it. That was improvised. There were basically a few single notes on the page for me to follow, and I made up the rest. Improvising is essential for organists, but it's especially essential on old village church instruments. It means I can be much more flexible and adjust my music to the organ's capabilities. Sure, you could race the Grand Prix in an old Rover 25, but trust me, there would not be much left of it afterwards. Just in case I didn't make the point strongly enough, shall we try another famous organ piece? Maybe I can remember a bit more of it. So we're using full organ again, pretty much all of the stops. A full chorus, so just listen to this. And then onto the swell as an echo. And back to the great. So that's instantly enhanced by removing the oboe. Listen to this. But it takes away so much of the drama of the music, doesn't it? So you really need that oboe. So it's a compromise between ugliness and volume. And what I'll do now is take off the coupler, because the coupler is making it very hard work to play. And the next bit is so difficult that I will mess it up, because I just don't know this organ. A mediocre performance. But that's part of the problem with pipe organs. On top of the fact you need to practice the piece, you also need to learn your way around the instrument and even how the keyboard feels. I'm just making excuses. But it's true, it does take a long time to learn how to do it. Oh, it's just the clock. That frightened me. But it was somebody rising from the crypt. So, you can see that full organ is not viable. I want to try something else now. Earlier I talked about the crows and how the ugliness of their sound, like the ugliness of the gargoyles outside, is all part of the effect that we feel and that we see and hear in these churchyards. And in the same way the oboe is a bit like that, isn't it? Let me put that into a minor key. So you can hear how much that sounds like the crows outside. That was purely improvised. But ugliness is not always a bad thing, I suppose. In the same way, you could make the 15th sound a bit like a blackbird. Whoa, what a beautiful machine that was. I could have played that organ for hours. In fact, by the end of the day I probably had. A challenging organ to play? Well, yes, it couldn't play everything. And while I was playing it with the couplers, I could feel things shaking as if they were about to fall to pieces. A straight pedalboard, that made it tricky. Yes, it was challenging to play, but they always are. Personally, I loved it. What did you think? I'd really love to know. Very interesting organ and a lovely church. It was good fun playing it. It's not such good fun putting this video together, so I won't talk for long. Can I just show you what I've done so far? This, friends, is the editing process of making these videos. I hate spoiling the magic of it because I am there filming on my own, and I do wield 2 cameras and a baseball cap at the same time. But putting it all together takes me far longer than the actual filming. And, you know, that's where all the time goes. If you're enjoying this trip so far, I would be very happy if you felt you'd like to leave a small donation to help me out. It's an immense task doing this, and I'm always trying to think of new places to go which I know that you will love, and that takes me a lot of time to do. And there's a lot of reconnaissance trips involved, going to churches which I think would be great for filming, and then spending lots and lots of time thinking about what kind of music I'm going to play. Aside from all of this editing work, if you'd like to help support me, I'd be truly grateful. There's one free way of doing that, and that is to subscribe to this channel. Subscribing is like joining a big online newsletter. It's really simple. It just means that YouTube tells you when one of my videos goes live, so you don't have to search for it manually, and it does not cost a penny. But it just helps spread my work to a wider audience, so it benefits all of us, I think, including the churches. So please do remember to subscribe if you're here for the first time, and you're very welcome. If you'd like to support me more, I'd be truly grateful for that. There is a PayPal link underneath this video. If you click on that, it takes you to my donations page. And from there you can leave a small donation if you enjoy these films every week. And you look forward to them and you enjoy the scenery. I was very lucky with the weather today. If you'd like to donate a different way, then just head to my website, benmaytonmusic.co.uk, and from there on the contact page you'll see the address to send a cheque to. Thanks so much for your support in advance. It's instrumental in me continuing to make these videos. Thank you. For now, I do have a treat for the end of this video. I'm not going to do much talking because I need to finish putting it together. I have 3 more Easter hymns for you, and I won't say another word, but of course I have to finish something I started earlier. This poem is certainly not about me. Plenty of you will know it. I'm sure you learnt it by heart at school. I read the first 2 stanzas before I played the organ, and here is the 3rd. This is from The Touch of the Master's Hand by Myra Brooks Welch. And many a man with life out of tune, and battered and scarred with sin, is auctioned cheap to the thoughtless crowd, much like the old violin. A mess of pottage, a glass of wine, a game, and he travels on. He is going once, and going twice, he's going and almost gone. But the master comes, and the foolish crowd never can quite understand the worth of a soul and the change that's wrought by the touch of the master's hand. I will see you soon. Thank you for watching and enjoy the following miniature recital. Bye-bye.